Hello and welcome to the RPG channel. I'm staying with some friends this week, so that explains the different location going on here. So we had the game this weekend, and I warned the players going in that this was going to be a high-risk, high-reward kind of adventure. I wasn't planning on killing them or anything like that, but I intentionally had the difficulty turned up a little bit on this adventure because I planned on it being the last adventure in this tunnels under the city storyline I had going on here. So the players started off by going down into the tunnels and hadn't gone very much further in when they discovered a dwarf who was locked up in a cell under the city. So they succeeded in some social skill challenges and won the dwarf's trust, and he told them that he was a former hunter of dark dwarves, the Dugar, I think is how you say that. He and his brothers had been up in the hills hunting dark dwarves when his brothers had been killed, he had been captured, and brought to this holding cell under the city. Now, he didn't know too much information outside of that. He just knew that the dwarves were working for someone, and that they were talking about a harbor or something like that. And he knew that the ships that were going to be used from this harbor, like the ones that they were building the harbor to launch, were not going to be headed north to attack the barbarians like the original plan was, what the players had been told that the entire point of rebuilding the city had been, but instead they were planning on having the ships go south and assault this peninsula that was home to the Paladin Order. So, that's kind of a lot of information to take in. The dwarf also told them that the Dugar weren't really all that loyal to their employer and had been stealing from him, and that he knew where a secret little cache of stuff that they had stolen was. So, the players leave the dwarf. Well, they give him one of their weapons, they heal him up, and then he comes with them on the next encounter, which is something I really hadn't planned for. I understood there was a possibility that the dwarf would go with them eventually, but I didn't think it would be on that encounter. So the dwarf goes with them down a little bit further, and they come to a pair of Dugar dwarves. And a fight ensues, and near the end of the fight, a zombie shows up, a chillborn zombie. It's an icy undead creature, which was actually really hard. He did a lot of damage to the players before they finally brought him down. I mean, the dwarves hurt them really bad even before the zombie showed up, and then when the zombie got there, then it got really, really dangerous. But they defeated them. They found the secret cache of stuff and got some money and a minor magic item. And then they went down just a little bit further, and then they came to the last encounter that I had planned. And this one involved another Dugar dwarf, a wizard riding on a giant lizard, and also this thing in the chamber, which was, I called it the grave candle, and it was this pillar with a flame on top of it, and periodically throughout the encounter it would summon a pack of skeletons. Now, the skeletons themselves weren't all that hard, but I warned the players going in that unless they shut the grave candle off, something bad was going to happen. So it was a skill challenge to shut the grave candle off in the middle of a combat. And this all took place in this one tiny little chamber, but then off from the chamber there was this kind of long corridor with some pillars and stuff, and the way I had planned on it happening was the players would come in, wind up fighting the dwarf and the skeletons, and trying to shut down the candle, the wizard would be going down the tunnel, and it would be kind of a fighting chase sequence. And that didn't really happen because the players knew that the wizard was trying to get somewhere and took extraordinarily proactive means to cut him off from that. So the entire battle took place in this one little chamber, and it was actually really crowded in there. So that was a lot different than what I had planned, but it still worked out pretty well. The players were eventually victorious in defeating the wizard, but they weren't able to shut the grave candle off in time, and this time a flaming skeleton showed up, and he had all kinds of fire-based attacks and was able to do some kind of serious damage, and the players were able to defeat him, and ended the encounter that was the end of the storyline of the tunnels and stuff like that. So when they come out, they are informed that the wizard that the king has put to rebuild the city has returned to the city and is offering a lot more advantages to the workers. So now instead of just getting like a reduction of their debt or being allowed to work for the city to make up for whatever crime they committed, now there's the option of when the city's rebuilt, they can become landowners there. So there's not as much incentive to rebel now. So the rebellion thing just kind of fizzles, and the few people who were kind of the ringleaders of the rebellion ideal decided that it would be a really good idea to leave town at that point. The players, through some skill checks, win an audience with the wizard and tell him about kind of what was going on under the city, and one of the players trades him with a magic item that they found under the city for one that they could actually use. So oh, and the riding lizard that the wizard under the city was on, the players were able to capture that, and now they're using it as a mount after much argument about whether or not they should keep it or sell it. So the wizard actually offered the players a job working for him, but they refused that and instead are going to start making their way south and try to get to the paladins and warn them about what's going on up north and how that there was this plan to come and attack them. It was a pretty good adventure. There was a lot of bad luck still with the dice and stuff. The players were failing a lot more than they were succeeding, or at least that's the way it seemed. And also, the player using the warlord character is still kind of frustrated because the party doesn't really work well with warlord style tactics and stuff. We don't really have any high damage dealing characters, and a lot of the warlord powers feed off teamwork and stuff like that, and this party really isn't good with that level of tactical thinking. So instead, what I think I'm going to do, if she's interested, is I'm kind of hijacking the rules from the Beastmaster Ranger class from the martial powers options, and I'm going to make those available for any class or any character that wants one. You know, it's going to cost a feat or so to actually take full advantage of it, but it's not like I'm just giving stuff away. And I'm going to strongly suggest that she take that. So that's how the game went. I was pretty pleased with it. They got a lot of experience points and found some really cool magic stuff, and I look forward to seeing where this adventure takes us now. So that was the last game, and I will talk to you next time.